with two primary attack buttons. First, I use the rune weapon to charge up, because when you charge up with rune weapon, you increase your total damage, intelligence, and elemental damages. And then sometimes I click the right mouse button, which now this one deals even more damage because you have charged up your rune weapon. Calculate the attacks after many rune attacks. Yeah, you can do that, yes. And hypothetically speaking, you could do that even with let's say that you play with a bow and you have warfare and hunting masteries. You use on left mouse button the onslaught skill with a bow. You charge up the onslaught, which will give you a very big percentage to, if you max it out, it will give you a very big percentage to physical damage output. And after you have reached that level of that buff, the damage output of physical damage, you can use on right click button, for example, the marksmanship. And with marksmanship, now you will be dealing even more pierce damage and physical, but also pierce, because there is also the pierce conversion on some items like spears and bows. The pierce conversion mechanic takes into account also how much strength you have and how much physical damage buffs. Buffs that increase physical damage, because the conversion from the base physical damage to pierce doesn't work in the same fashion as the physical damage to elemental conversion. Physical damage to elemental takes into account only the base damage of the item without taking into account any buffs to strength or to physical damage of the weapon. So, in the case of elemental, if we wanted to convert this 292 base physical damage of the spear to elemental, then 100% conversion would give us 271 up to 292 elemental damage. That would be it. Because it wouldn't take into account the conversion itself, buffs to the physical damage of the weapon, or based on strength or physical damage percentage from items, whatever. But pierce conversion, which is the pierce ratio stat that we can see on this item, it exists also on other items like bows and thrown weapons and some swords. This is the conversion from the physical damage of the weapon itself to pierce. But this conversion mechanic takes into account if you have strength points that increase the physical damage of the weapon, and it also takes into account the percentages to physical damage that you get from items. For example, this one has plus 68% physical damage. So, the more you buff up, you boost up the physical damage of your weapon attacks, the more you boost up also the pierce damage that comes from the pierce conversion of the item itself. Because in some cases where you have items or skills that deal pierce damage, flat pierce damage, without using a conversion mechanic, those ones, for example, there is a shield, a mastery frequent shield, that drops from the Death Weaver's shield, whatever they call it, which has a flat number of pierce damage. The shield doesn't have pierce conversion mechanic because it is a shield. Now, if you increase your strength or your percent to physical damage, that flat number of pierce damage from that shield, when you hit with that shield the enemy, the shield will deal the damage, the physical damage of the shield, and it will deal the flat pierce damage of that stat on that shield. But that specific flat pierce damage will not be affected by percentages to physical damage or by strength. Because it is a conversion, it is flat. That flat pierce damage will be affected by dexterity, which increases pierce damage, by percentages to pierce damage, or by percentages to total damage, things like this. So when it comes to pierce conversion, even buffs to strength and physical damage will increase the pierce that comes only from the pierce conversion mechanic. And onslaught skill has this boosting up mechanic anyways, which boosts up your physical damage output very much. At first you use onslaught, you boost up physical damage by a percentage, and then you use on the right mouse button max massive if you want, and this way the physical damage of the bow gets the pierce damage of the bow, because it has its own pierce conversion, will convert even more damage to pierce now, which means that with marksmanship it will deal even more pierce, and also with marksmanship it will deal its own stats that marksmanship skill tree has. And this way you can increase also the performance of marksmanship based on a bow build or spear build, bow build, or even thrown weapons build of both thrown weapons that have a pierce conversion on, or thrown weapons that don't have pierce conversion on. I hope that is not too complicated. Oy, oy, oy. And I think that it is raining outside, which is very annoying. Yeah, there are different amounts of pierce ratio on different items. Some items have 10%, others have 15, others have 30, others have 25, and there are a couple of spears I think that have 50% conversion. One or two items only 50% conversion to ratio, pierce ratio.